Hello and welcome to the show. We have another race car to start off this week's Canyon Rally, the Miramar. Now this has not got the same power as some of the other crazy vehicles that have gone down this course. However, it is relatively light, so still plenty of speed about the car, although the lightness does throw up its own set of problems. Of course, being a race car, well, the suspension not quite so ideally suited to this course. Admittedly, I got things very wrong coming across the crest there at turn 1. I was far too far to the right-hand side there, and we ended up on the grass on the landing. Never where you want to be, and now it's a rather poorly looking race car stuck in the canyon. So yeah, don't want to go that far. I then completely overcorrect on the next attempt, and then we launch our car to the left, and that equally doesn't go particularly well for the poor vehicle. It does though bounce around, this time coming to a stop on its roof. Only the fuel tank was ruptured in all of that. Came into the engine starved of oil as I'm trying to recover the vehicle. I was curious to see if it would still run, and sure enough, the car is still in working condition after that. I mean, most of the doors are wanting to flap around and so on. However, the car was still in a drivable condition. This is one of the big difficult areas. The bridge jump, of course, race car suspension tends to be very stiff. Not particularly forgiving when you have a high-speed landing and the vehicle getting bounced around. It hadn't actually sustained too much damage. Unfortunately, it was the driveline that had gone, which meant that, yeah, the car, it could kind of roll downhill, and steering was functioning, but not the driving part. May have overcorrected for some oversteer a little bit too much. The car finds grip, then go spearing off the side of the mountain. It is quite an oversteery car. It's relatively controllable with it, but if things do go wrong, tend to go wrong big style. Oh, that's just the nature of this course. Big fireball as well with the ruptured fuel there. Couldn't quite make a flag out of it though. On the tree, we have to settle for just sort of coming to a rest. It's a big fire. Okay, if I've got fire at both ends of this car, so yeah, little bit of a dangerous area. Trying to get the speed right. I was a tad too slow leaving the jump this time around. Again, it's that heavy impact on the landing. The car is just not quite strong enough. It's not able to deal with that landing as well as we've seen. You know, something like the Vanster, for example, was flat out over that section. Didn't matter if that had a heavy landing. This, though, yeah, it can't do it. Almost got a car flag out of it. We sort of spun our way around the tree before coming to a rest, but there we go. As ever, if you lock the brakes into turn 2, things can get a little bit hairy. This time, we go for an interesting roll across the little ditch there. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that one worked, to be honest. I mean, the car actually didn't really take much damage in that. It was just sort of a graceful roll, but there we go. This high-speed final section has caught a few cars out, and the bumpiness is not good for this vehicle. Not good at all. And this is, again, where the lightness comes in. The car is so light, it really gets thrown about. Combine that with the, you know, racing suspension, it really gets thrown about by some of these larger bumps. Perhaps this is the best demonstration of it. I was quite surprised to see the car sort of wobble over in that manner. Unfortunately, the drive shaft got broken a lot of times in this quite a vulnerable area. But yeah, just bouncing from side to side across the bumps the car would go. Here, I have managed to recover it initially, and then it dug into the sort of the sand on the outside, and that pulled it over. It was just in the braking zone. I was getting bounced around and being pulled off course, which is not really what you want to be doing at that particular section. So yeah, it took a little bit of time. Certainly not the most difficult car I've had to drive down here. It's not the quickest coming across this crest. It's sort of 83 miles an hour. However, that is still respectable speed for the vehicle. Yeah, it's not going to have the same top speed to really challenge some of the ultra high powerful machinery that has gone down here. However, it does go respectably fast. It also handles really very nicely. It can carry quite a lot of corner speed. We come up towards the bridge jump, 67 miles an hour. Still a little bit of a heavy landing, this car, not much you can do about it. You've just got to hope that you don't get bounced around. If you get the landing nice and straight, you can get away with it, as I did here. Sort of this pond hairpin could carry a lot of speed on the way out of it. The front end actually gets turned in quite nicely. Can often give you a little bit of oversteer from time to time, but yeah, there is quite a lot of front-end grip. Brakes are also pretty good at getting it slowed down as we come into this tunnel hairpin. Make sure you don't go on the power too soon. While yeah, there is good front-end grip, you'll still understeer off the road. You try and jump on the power too soon coming out of that hairpin. We've got some half-decent acceleration racing down towards these final few corners, 105 miles an hour, but critically, you can't take so much speed through here. Got to be very, very mindful of the bumps. Got to turn in nice and late to make sure that you avoid the bumps. Once you are past the worst of the bumps, then it is not too bad. Just got to watch the oversteer doesn't catch you out as we go around the final corner. You see exactly what I mean there. Doesn't matter too much. We'd already crossed the finish line at that point, but yeah, did have to be mindful that the oversteer didn't catch you, because it was quite easy to sort of snap around and have issues that, yeah, we might have ever so slightly lost a wheel in that roll. A little bit of damage would have been done to the front on the landing of the jump. The rest, though, from crossing the finish line. Now, our next car. This one has been quite relatively highly requested. The stanced Pessima. Now, I did slightly tweak around with the engine. Of course, I didn't want to keep the normal boring engine in it, so this has got the turbocharged V6. Actually, quite a lot of power in this. Quite a lot of power, quite a lot of speed. It's front-wheel drive as well, as you can see, getting off the line. There is... I wasn't quite ready for the amount of wheel spin the car was going to generate. Yeah, it will spin its wheels for days. It's going 90 miles an hour as it crests this turn 1. Fuel tank's already been ruptured, but... the bouncing on the suspension will just put the car around as, yeah, the suspension on this is so ridiculously stiff, and then we've actually managed to get it beached as well out here. It is so stiff and so low to the ground that, yeah, it's... I mean, the description for the car in the game is it's undrivable. It's not quite undrivable, but on a course like this, it's not happy. And this section was a big problem. Now, we saw problems with the race car over the bridge jump. They were a lot worse for this. I actually snapped the steering, didn't realise I wasn't going to be able to turn to avoid tumbling it down here, but the car is very much on its way down the side of the mountain, and it would travel many times down here, primarily off of that jump, because the landing is so vicious. Now, in the other vehicles that have gone down here, even the race cars have had a little bit more in the way of give in the suspension. This doesn't. It hits the ground and it bounces, and 99% of the time it will bounce you straight either to the right and it will send you straight off the road, or to the left, you'll go straight into the cliff face, roll, and probably end up off the road. This time it is to the right and smack into that exposed rock. A lot of cars have ended up in that so far in this series, and this would end up in there many times. We managed to splat ourselves across a rock further down, and now we've got a really stanced car. I would say that's about as... yeah... quite impressive, really. Absolutely pancaked the car on its tumble. That's what landing sort of dead flat will do from a rather large height, and then landing upside down on a rock will do to your vehicle. Not good. I tried lots of sort of different lines. I've tried slightly different speeds, different stuff for leaving the jump. It just didn't want to land. You can see the car, the back, bouncing and bouncing and bouncing, and there's just so little you can do. You just don't have the control to do anything about the vehicle. Now there's some fire. Surprisingly, it made it this far without catching fire after the previous tumbles. Again, another big impact as we cartwheel. It's quite a spectacular fiery cartwheel that we have going on here. But, yeah... it is another very, very big crash for the car. Now, amazingly, occasionally you could survive the jump, taking it at reasonable speed. This is the first time I'd actually survived the jump. I had no idea what sort of speed I could get away with. Lost the back end. Still slightly in race car mode, thinking of the speed I could get around that hairpin. I couldn't. Lost the back end. Slid out, unfortunately, just at the end of the crash barrier. And, I mean, kind of a car flag. sort of a car flag-ish there. I did have to give up trying to go flat out over the bridge jump though, because it just wasn't, or I say flat out, with relative speed it just wasn't working. Once I'd got the hang of that particular section, these high-speed bumpy corners would also throw up some issues. It caused a bit of problem for the race car, of course. This has got far worse suspension, and yeah, you hit the bumps with any speed at the back end. You can watch the back end just move about. And this time it's just under braking the back end lets go, and then we've ended up out on the grass. That's not a good place to be. I wanted to get the car slowed for the turn, and we just lost the back end, and I couldn't catch it in time. A difficult car to drive. Not undrivable, mine. Not completely undrivable, but very, very unsuited to trying to do a high-speed rally stage, essentially, especially one as bumpy as this. You can see, we can watch through the course of this run just how much the back of the car is bouncing around, and that is not good for dealing with bumps. The middle being front-wheel drive does help. If the back end ever does let go, you can normally just boot it, and it can save itself if you haven't smacked into something already. You're a little bit wide on the exit of that chicane. Now, up towards the bridge, I tried. I think twice I got over about 60 miles an hour with it working. I had to slow the car down. In fact, that was a little bit faster than I was really wanting to be doing. And you can see the fuel tank is quite prone to rupturing. Really not very nice across that. It's a very bumpy braking zone at the best of times, but in this it is even worse. And now there is fire. A lot of fire, in fact, coming from my car. Yeah, not really the ideal situation. I think we might have found Ghost Rider's car. However, the flames not really affecting affecting visibility slightly, not affecting drivability of the car, however, so bugger it. I would carry on with this run as we round the hairpin again. The car a little bit unsettled, visibility becoming a bigger problem at this stage with all of the fire in the camera. I do have to sort of fiddle about just about to be able to see where I'm going. A little bit out of position having faffed about with the camera. However, we do get it through the first part of these fast corners, and once you're around that turn, the rest isn't too bad to negotiate. And then just the run towards the line, even if we do get... it's very, very difficult to drive with this much fire coming up at the screen. We're going to get a little bit of a twitch, and as we go to slow down, I don't know if I locked the... sort of me locking the brakes punctured the front tyres, or whether the fire got the front tyres. I've locked up the brakes many a times before and never had them... and never had front tyres burst in that manner, so there's a little bit of a peculiar tyre bursting, although that's kind of the least of the concerns when the entire front of the car is on fire and the rear seats are on fire as well. Yeah. It was spectacular. I will say that much. It was certainly spectacular. So, from the Fireball, we go on to a rally car to finish off the Lancia Delta. As soon as I saw this around on the Beam forums, I knew this would have to go down the Canyon rally course. It is a little bit of a bogging down launch from the Lancia. It doesn't get off the line amazingly well. It was nice to have a car with suspension again. It was really nice, and especially a car with suspension designed to deal with bumps. Unfortunately, I was actually too far to the left. I got my sort of front wheel caught on the dirt and I couldn't pull the car off of it. It kind of just dragged me along and snapped the front steering and slightly bent out the bumper. So not the greatest of starts with the Delta here. Too much speed. We've seen this many a time as well. A very, very commonplace to have accidents. Now, I didn't actually end up in this pond that often with the other two vehicles. With the Delta, well, yeah, we went for a little bit of a swim. The biggest sort of difficulty to adjust with this car, it didn't have as good a brake as I was expecting. It wasn't as good as the Miramars from the opening, sort of the opening car. That got stopped a lot better than this Lancia. So that was something a little bit to learn. Also, too much speed. There was plenty of grip in this car, but you can still try to ask too much of it as we were going through the final corners there. Just clipped the inside bank. There have been some big crashes at that section. It is a very, very high-speed section of the road, and the Lancia would go for a launch. Again, I know that this car did have great turning. I was trying to get away with carrying more and more speed through this section, but that was asking too much. At the end of the day, that was just too much for the Delta, and the wheels are at some very interesting angles on that side. However, the Lancia was not too bad a car to drive down this course. After all, it is the sort of vehicle that is, going to be well suited to this kind of a challenge. The suspension could deal with the bumps very, very well. You see very little in the way of movement on the landing there. The brakes were a little bit of a letdown in some respects. They were something I had to kind of relearn. You couldn't push this car too ridiculously because you just simply weren't going to get stopped. That's 75 miles an hour across the jump, and on the landing we're fine. It's nice to be able to take that much speed through that section, and the vehicle, okay, it is a little bit of a heavy landing on the front, I will be honest. You can see the bonnet's a little bit slightly bent up. However, it can survive it and it can keep going very, very nicely. We can carry decent speed around the hairpin, not quite as much as we could with our first vehicle, however, still pretty good handling in all, really. The kind of acceleration, it's not the most powerful car, again, much like the first vehicle that ran, not the most powerful car, however, four-wheel drive out of the corners is quite nice to have that traction, and still getting up to pretty solid speed. It's not going to threaten the hill climb time attack cars in terms of straight line speed. However, it is still pretty rapid, 115 coming in to this final section. Now, I had to not do anything too stupid through here. I knew I couldn't quite carry absurd speed. Still, though, 80-90 miles an hour through that section is good going as you run towards the finish line, 106 miles an hour. Not quite, again, not quite up there with the time attack cars, but not bad. And there we go. The Lancia was across the line. When I was spinning the camera around, didn't realise there was a giant rock there as I went to set off. And having survived the course, no problem, I promptly snapped the front left wheel on the rock, which was, yeah, not the cleverest thing I've done. The rest of the front damage, the sort of the bumper, the lights, and the bonnet are. But that was from the landing of the bridge jump, but still survived quite nice and cleanly. Onto the times, and the Lancia is the quickest of the three, going into 9th place overall. 137.9 is a good time from the Delta. It beats the SBR4 and the ETK 800 series, losing out slightly to the Countach and the 200BX race car. It's got the suspension to deal with the course. It just doesn't quite have the power to match, the likes of the race cars, the hill climb cars, the Countach, etc. The Miramar race version is down in 14th place, 141.6. Again, pretty respectable time, goes quicker than the Lancia 037. The Mercury Cougar is a little down on the Vanster. I think that Vanster did remarkably well for what it is. That shows you what some tough suspension can do for a vehicle. The stanced Pessima is down in 22nd place, 154.2, a tenth of a second down on the GL83. It is a second down on the Ford LTD. There's a fair way down on the other cars that ran today. However, it does beat the lead sled. It beats the Pigeon, the Bluebird bus, the remote control car. Yeah, it wasn't very, very well suited to this course whatsoever, but 4 seconds quicker than the lead sled is actually not bad going for that vehicle. I thought that was going to be a lot slower. I really did, going down this course. A tenth of a second off an off-road vehicle. It does help that it had quite a powerful engine in there, but yeah, surprising the time from that car, although, yeah, it was quite difficult to drive. However, that is going to be it for this video, guys. As ever, I will put links to all the mods that I've used in the description so you can download them, have a go with them yourself. But that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.